Oftentimes here at the Fireside Tales, we ask ourselves the question of what is real and of what is not. And there is no easy answer, no perfect definition, but we'll be proposing this question again. And we'll be looking at a journal from the 18th century. And it's a very odd story, but I guess the best way to begin it is just to do so. So if you'll just give me a minute, I'll get the lights. Drawn to the mirror I was, the smooth glass, the golden frame. It haunted my every nightmare, consumed my every thought. I bought the mirror from a salesman in India. He gave me a fair price for it, and I took it home and I set it in my bedroom. My wife didn't like it. She didn't like the symbols on it, and thought that it might be some sort of voodoo. But I had a sort of strange obsession with it. Every night I'd wake up and I'd look into the mirror, and every day I'd find myself staring at it. And one day I was sitting and I was putting on my shirt, I believe, and I looked over and I could have swore that my reflection smiled at me. Well, I went and I told my wife, and she said that it must have been just a trick of the eye. But I kept my eye on the mirror after that. I oftentimes found myself staring into its glass for hours at a time. I just found myself obsessed with it. Occasionally I thought I saw things. I thought I saw things in the background, women and children, and I could hear people speaking almost in my ears. But anyways, it wasn't until one day I was staring straight into the mirror when I began to notice my face drooping down, my nose, and I tried to grab hold, and I began to let out a terrifying scream, and my wife and my children all ran up, and they found me there lying on the floor. Well, anyways, they called the doctor, and the doctor came, and he told me that I wasn't taking my pills enough, and he gave me some more. And my wife was all, and my three sons and my three daughters were all very worried, but I assured them that I was going to try to be better, and I would take the pills. But anyways, once I was sure they were all gone, I threw the pills out the window. Anyways, my wife took the mirror, and she hid it from me. So I did my best to pretend to be just the right person for them. I spoke in all the right ways, I acted in all the right ways, I dressed according to their standards. But secretly I was looking around the house, trying to find the mirrors. I was dreaming about it, and it was driving me mad. I finally found the key, and I finally went up into the attic and opened the door, and there I found the mirror in the back of the room, with a big cloth over it. So I walked over and I pulled the cloth, and I resumed staring at the mirror, and every night I would go up into the attic and stare at it until morning would come. Well, anyways, one night I was looking at it, and I thought I heard strange voices, and I saw these bright yellow eyes in the background. I thought it was a beast. Another night I stared into the mirror, and I saw all these little women, old women, flying around with little wings, and they'd fly around my head, buzzing around incessantly, and I began to smack my head, trying to drive them away. But the strangest night of all, I think, was I was going up and I was looking into the mirror, and I saw it almost immediately. There was this room, and there were all these people dressed in robes, and the people were chanting something, and there were candles all around. And one of them came up to me, and I realized it was my own reflection. And it looked at me, and then it opened a bag, and it pulled out a head, and began to laugh. And I looked down at the head, and I looked at it in terror as I realized what it was, and then I fell down, and I almost let out a scream, but I was able to control myself. Anyways, I didn't look at the mirror for some time after that, but then one night I couldn't resist. I went back up, and I looked into the mirror, and I saw myself standing there. And as I looked at the mirror, he reached out and he began to cut his hand, and I realized that a scar was beginning to form on my own hand. And the reflection said, "Do you know what I am, my friend? I am you, exactly like you." And I looked at him and I said, No, I am nothing like you. You can't keep drawing me back here, but you'll always be drawn back," said my reflection. "You are oh so weak, and I am so filled with endless possibility, but what you cannot understand is that I'm not good for you. I am not safe, but I am life. I am something better, something greater than anything you've ever experienced. The world doesn't know that those things that fall out of place will destroy it, but humans can't resist. They must unlock the door. They must come back for it. It eats them away, and I'll keep eating you away. And I just kept saying to myself, I'm not like you, I'm not like you, I'm not like you. Well, anyways, I decided not to go back after that. I went back down, and I wanted to take my pills again, and I began to, and my wife began to notice my progress, as she had noticed already that I was tired, and she had tried to talk to me before, but I had always ignored her. But one night I got up, and I felt this urging to go out into the room. I walked over, and I went up into the attic, and I found to my terror that for some reason my reflection was gone from the mirror. I couldn't explain it. I looked all around, but the reflection, it wasn't anywhere. So anyways, I ran back downstairs, and I came back into my bedroom. And I walked over, and I saw my wife lying there dead, and her throat was slit. And I looked over, and I saw a dark shape as it ran out of the room. And I yelled out, "You devil, you killed her!" And I grabbed hold of the knife, and I chased after it, for I knew it was my reflection. I knew it had been the one that had committed this crime. I ran back up into the attic, and my reflection was in there, and it was laughing at me, and I walked up to it, and it said, "I killed them all. I killed your entire family. And there's nothing you can do to destroy me." Well, anyways, I was driving myself mad. I began to hit my head against myself, and finally I couldn't stand it anymore. My reflection was laughing, and I raised up my life, and I ran straight towards the mirror, and it broke apart. And this is where the story, of course, stops. And we get another story from the doctor, Dr. Huntington. Dr. Huntington was looking over the case and said, "This was a very peculiar case I had, and the man himself was deeply injured. We found him up in the attic with a glass shard in his side, and he was raving and yelling, and the family was found down below, all of them dead with their throats slit in their sleep. I have never seen any case like it, and the mirror itself is completely destroyed, and we have made sure to throw the parts in the deepest hole on the earth, that never may be seen again. What happened that night and what happened to that man may never be known. But for me, I shall always remember those last words that he said, and the certainty in his eyes that all he had saw was real. His last words were, 'Insanity. Isn't it wonderful?'